Same with a text editor, is there's lots of things that they would want to be able to do. Bold, be able to add HTML in, because with the text component, there's an add-in where you can actually enable that.
Right, so you had to munch your tabs together, maybe add a center alignment that's missing.
Take the tab, completely take the tab away is one of the things that we're looking to do. And we've got it in the design stages, but essentially what we are looking to do for an author experience, because if we put a bunch of tabs in there, people aren't going to click the tabs. We can make them very specific things, but they're not going to do it. So what we want to do is within that component, we have all the information there. So everything that we want is within
all
the one tab, all in one panel, essentially. And whether there's a scroll bar on the side that they need to go to, they still have to scroll down and click that OK button. And that's one of the big things that we wanted to do for an authoring experience, is have everything right in front of them. Don't have to click around all over the place. And some of the dialogue text for non-technical people can be very confusing. And one of them is, I believe it's the list component, where you can choose different ones, and if you're not really familiar with the system, you can get lost, and how do I do this and do that? So one of the big things is very friendly text, and also inline help. So they click the help button, and they get a help video. Is one of the things that we want to do. So we're looking to really have a very rich web authoring experience within the component, within the environment, that doesn't mean that they have to put a help desk ticket in to do something. As much as we can put in that component.
So you're hacking the dialogues and your JSON.
Yes.
So basically, we're finding ourselves, when we take a critical eye at case-by-case usage, you go, this is a great step in the right direction, but boy, it could be better. Because, of course, the environment XJS, 2 versions back or whatever that is, it's just not modern. It's not, even those icons, what is that little 3-box thing? It's nonsense. So we're looking at every piece of this, and given that we have, again, hundreds of people that don't know what they're doing, we think it's worth our time. We're trying not to overlay the editing environment too much, but at the component level, we're taking full charge of, I would say, and really dialing in those dialogues and building our own widgets to put as text fields where it makes sense. Instead of putting percentages for columns, as easy as it is for us, it's amazing how authors don't understand that. So we'll put pictures, and we'll select the picture, and we're just looking at all those elements now.
That's a really good point. Did you overhaul their the layout components to use the Bootstrap?
We are using layout components. Oh, you mean like in the Sidekick?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can show you a picture of what we're going to do. We've redesigned in a prototype. We haven't done it yet.
What version are you going to find it?
5.6.1.
Okay, and you're using Bootstrap already?
Yeah, we're using Bootstrap, and our HTML is all Bootstrap. We are running into conflicts. We haven't gone back. Some of our class or styles are now selecting editing styles, and now we're seeing some conflicts since we are using Respect 2. So that's going to be interesting.
So which environment are we talking about?
Well, if you have ProtoShare, or that, or it's in the wiki too, what the Sidekick looks like.
Okay.
So how many components you end up making?
We have a goal. I mean, when I talked to all the schools, they said, oh, we ended up with 120. And they said, don't do that. And I said, yeah, that's good. So we're trying to limit ourselves to 20 or less. We're going to try really hard.
Number of components?
For editing components, yeah.
Are you saying that each school has their own set of developers?
I'm talking about, other universities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, other universities. Whenever I talk to people who've implemented this, other universities, ask them, what would you do differently? They would say, well, we would try to avoid having 50 templates and 120 components, because it's a nightmare to manage. And, we want to have some, because if you guys have used it, you know that components kind of have their own life cycle. Like you can only invest so much in overlays. You do something, you learn about it, and then you might want to rev it. Well, if you have 120 of those, there's no way you could do that. 20, it's hard enough. So we actually have started, what is our number one component? Text. I mean, unfortunately for us, that's the number one component. So we got to nail that. So we spent a long time, putting in the field dialogues. We're going to change, the image dialogue, for instance. You right-click and there's no alt image. Starting to get in there and really make that thing rock. And we basically, the way we're doing this is, we're not usability experts necessarily, but we're going out to the WordPresses of the world. We're going out to Wix.com. We're going to these places that have already solved these usability issues. And we're just saying, let's make sure the rich text editor does that and nothing but that. In our sidekick, let's organize things the way a human thinks, not general and other. And start to input icons that make sense. Because the people that focus on UX, it's night and day between what CQ gives us. As good as it is, the elements of design need to be, and even usability need to be improved. And we're aware that this is only about a year to two long value because of the change in Granite. But we can't go live with stuff like it is. I mean, that's our opinion. So in our environment, so we have to make the investment.
I can't remember what you were on, whether that's something else. But
Okay.
to kind of add to what Mark's saying, is a lot of what we do is text, it's content. So if you've looked at everything that's in the sidekick over there, there's lots of things that out of the gate we're not going to use. And it's just, it's overkill for our environment. Now, some of them we might end up using on down the road, but it's when we get to that point, or if somebody comes to us with a requirement. Because what we really don't want to do within that sidekick is somebody goes in there and there's 50 different components to choose from, and they go, what is it that I'm going to do? We want to really, like Mark said, we want to narrow it down to what the kind of the nuts and bolts is that they need to do to get their work done, and kind of the good add wins that give them more functionality with that environment. And having a in the sidekick where it says text, and they click that heading, and it gives them text editor component. One of the sites that I'll show you, we have the idea of featured content. So what we had done for one of our pilot sites is we built 4 different feature text components. So featured text that goes horizontally, featured text that goes vertically, featured text with an image. And that was to get this pilot site example going. Oh, there you go. So this, to continue with what I was going with, is we did that for the pilot site, and then our users looked at it, and we reevaluated it, and went, why do we really need 4 different components that do very similar things? Why don't we just have a feature component that's got inline examples of how it will look based on your selection, and have that experience all within one, rather than just looking at the sidekick that says feature horizontal, feature vertical, and they really don't understand what it does, so they drag it in, open it up, and no, that's not the one I want, so they right-click, delete it, we drag another one in. Well, they know they want to do featured content, so they just really need to drag that one in, and that whole experience for them is within that one component. And that's from a user experience, and I've been doing this a very long time, that getting them from the get-go is very important. So you want to have a very easy to use environment for them. You want to train them so that they understand, because if they get into that environment and they get lost, they're not going to do what it is that you want them to do. And as I mentioned, we've got a lot of static content within our environment. We want them to have a good experience to go in and update things so that they drive more traffic to their sites. So really building out the components that goes, wow, this is what I want to do. I see it all within this one panel. I can select what it is I want. I can get a preview of what it's going to look like. I can change that to really do this, and then I can click OK, and then boom, it's right on my page. That's very important to what it is that we're trying to do. So as you can see, we've got this idea of these general topic headings. So text, you click on that. We've got to update this a little bit because the feature content one is going to roll up. But you can see where we want to have these main headings, click on it like images, and it expands. And we've got a nice little friendly icon there. But that's it. Now this is just an example rendering. We haven't decided on all of this, but you can kind of get the idea. You open up the Sidekick now, and you can add in 50 zillion things there. And from a user perspective, if you actually went and enabled everything, they would get lost. So really what we want to do is, concise what it is that we offer them. If they have a business need, they can obviously come to us and say, hey, we'd like to do this. Do we have an out-of-the-box component that does what they want to do? Fine, we can enable it for their site, train them on it, and away they go. Or in the case of, we'd really like it to be able to do this and this, well, is there a component that sort of does it, so we can take that and expand it? Or do we need to develop it from scratch? Is where we lie with that.
So in like all these, when you have like the image and excerpt is kind of an image and freeform text pretty much, did you just use inheritance and inherited the image component and the rich text component, or did you just start from scratch for that particular component? Using
an existing component. So from the get-go, one of the things that we decided upon, and I think we're reinforcing this very much, is if it's out of the box and we can just expand that, that's what we want to do. I mean, we really don't want to have to build things from scratch, because it might work for one person, and then if somebody else comes to us and they need something else, and somebody else needs something else, and then if we have all these different components that kind of do similar or the same things, or they're completely custom from the ground up.
So with the customizations that you've done, how do you have an evolution plan where you know which components are going to change in what ways? Do you have a roadmap?
Mark could probably answer that.
Yeah, we challenged the team for, say, our top 10 components that are in use to basically have a release cycle that will go out a year and a half of different features.
Building on the previous comment, though, you adapted some of the components in a special way, so you extended, say, the foundation list to munge all the tabs together into one panel, say.
Correct.
So you know that when the application evolves to 5.6.2, you're going to have to look at that code and adapt. So
Well, the development
you know,
answer actually, the development answer is we're actually not overlaying like that too much. We are, I think what Jason, you probably meant in development terms, is that we're actually just lifting the code out and we're building things around it. We're not, so all of these things sit in apps, Stanford Medicine components. So they're not overlaying in foundation or DIMS directory or something like that. And not all of the things in there will be that, but the things that are unique to us that we touch, yeah. Because I mean, there's upgrade issues here, big upgrade issues. We're sensitive to that. But it's I guess it's one thing. I guess I've challenged the team to optimize for the authoring experience. If that means some challenges and upgrades, so be it. But at least we're going into it. We're documenting everything that we are overlaying, so we know what to test when that inevitability happens. I mean, we think potentially, obviously, if there's bug fixes or hot fixes, we'll go forward. But our next big upgrade might be even into Granite, where we have to rebuild a lot of this stuff. The editing environment has a ways to go yet, from what I've seen, but we'll be beta testing some of that shortly, and we'll see where it's at. So, the way I characterize this work is we're doing 3 or 4 things differently. One is where we're really grouping things by things that look like content types to an author. And as we looked across, again, at these cloud services, these are the types of organizations they used. It was not tool-centric, it was not general and other, it wasn't generic, it was very specific around types of content. So that was number one. Then the iconography, we had to make it more semantic. And this is fairly easy to overlay, it's just a bunch of CSS generally. So even I, as a non-developer, implemented most of this on my own local box by overlaying the CSS. So using the typical flat icons. And then the third thing is renaming Sidekick. And again, that's just a CSS overlay. But again, Sidekick means nothing to my users, right? These are site builder tools or something. I don't even know if that's right, but certainly not Sidekick. And then the last thing was, we need to, what is this stuff? What is an image and excerpt? We probably know what it is, but do my authors? Maybe not.